Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. Some drama in Las Vegas. So
Oh
much
boy.
drama in the LV Vegas yet
LVN,
again.
LVN,
LVN. So much drama in the LVN.
licensed vocational nurse.
It's tough being Nate Hobbs, the nickel cornerback. So Nate Hobbs got a speeding citation on January 21st, a couple days ago. And this, of course, after he was arrested on suspicion of drunk driving. So we're asking the question, is Las Vegas a problem for the Raiders? Before we get into this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I got a lot more coming up on YouTube. Make sure you stay abreast of all the comings and goings and all the things going on. So the question is, when the Raiders initially moved to Las Vegas, right? Before there was any teams in Vegas, right? Before the Knights were there, before the Raiders were there no pro sports there. And obviously the major issue was the gambling, right? Oh my God, clutch my pearls. Oh my God. I mean, people might be, betting money on these games. That can't be that. You can't do that. And now gambling, like sports gambling, is like taking over everything.
Everywhere.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Pat McAfee's like literally Scrooge McDuck diving into a bank full of gambling sponsorships, right? So it's like it's great. Like all this money is getting pumped into sports broadcasting. But the other part, and a much smaller part of the conversation, was it's Sin City. There's trouble everywhere. How can you have a bunch of early 20-year-old millionaires running around that town and not getting into trouble? I mean, players find trouble in Cleveland. Players find trouble in Milwaukee. Players find trouble in Kansas City. Everywhere. Just imagine if they're in Sin City. And then, we've been, as Southern California guys, we're in Vegas all the time. I'm in there, almost every single weekend to work for the UFC. And we start getting defensive a little bit, right? It's like, no, they can handle it. And honestly, Soto, I don't know where you stood on this, but before the Raiders got there, and kind of before the last year, I was like, not a problem. They'll be fine. They'll be used to Vegas, right? You go to Vegas so many times that you start getting kind of over it. You don't need to be on the strip searching for cocaine and hookers at 4 a.m. every single day. You get over it, and then it just kind of becomes home, and you treat it that way.
Yeah, it's a big problem. There's a big difference between the minor league baseball team that was there for a long time or the hockey team that was there for a long time, because they play continuously throughout the week. Football, you play once a week, right? Mm-hmm. So you have that buildup, right? You start off low after the game, and you have that steady buildup to the game, and then you have that, now I have a day off. Today's my day to get my shit in, right? Mm-hmm. And you combine that with the fact that the fucking city never closes down. Yep. And it's in the middle of nowhere, so you kind of get that kind of bubble feeling. But it's not like in the middle of nowhere like Cleveland, middle of nowhere, because it's like a million times more nightlife, bunch of snooches in and out. Yeah. Everyone knows who you are. You got endless money. You don't have to really pay for shit when you go out anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's a problem, man. It's a big problem.
So why is this coming up now? Well, like we mentioned, Nate Hobbs just got a speeding citation a few days ago. This is after he was arrested on suspicion of drunk driving on January 3rd. After they came back, I think that was a Colts game, right? After they beat the Colts, he came back and fell asleep in the trying to leave Dre's in his car. And obviously that's just a month after Henry Ruggs had that fatal DUI. And that was just a year after Josh Jacobs was arrested on suspicion of DUI. And in all fairness, he was never charged with the DUI. His blood alcohol level was below the legal limit. He was charged with misdemeanor reckless driving. But he was being reckless in a car. He did have some alcohol in his system, and he was out late and caused a ruckus and got in trouble. So that's 3 instances. So Steve Cofield, the guy who we'll have on the show, he's a radio host in Las Vegas. I had this text message conversation with him because he is even more defensive of his town. He's been a radio host there for 30 years. He's like, don't blame Vegas. Don't blame Vegas. Guys will get in trouble. And I literally texted him after the Henry Ruggs incident. And I said, look, if players are getting arrested at Dre's at 5 a.m., then maybe there's a problem. Henry Ruggs was leaving golf. He was going to Top Golf in a friend's house. Damon Arnett did that social media post in his house, in an apartment, it looked like, right? These guys it's not Vegas making these guys being a problem. These guys are problems, and they happen to be in Vegas. But then when Nate Hobbs got rolled, literally leaving Dre's where
At
you
5 in
go
the
to find
morning.
trouble, like hours after he landed from playing a game. Then that made me kind of start to question Soto. This is 3 guys behind the wheel with alcohol problems in the span of 1 year. Is it time to start saying maybe there's something to this? Maybe Las Vegas, maybe Sin City is a little too much for the Raiders to handle.
I mean, have we checked the DUIs from other teams in other cities? I'm sure that, I mean, we're getting this news because we follow the Raiders. I mean,
No NFL team had 3 such issues in a 1 year span.
I personally think that it's going to be an issue just because in the general population it's an issue, right? But you mix in the fact that they are professional athletes. They tend to during the season fit in their partying and like they try to fit it in 1 day.
Yeah.
Because like they're so controlled the rest of the week, they really only have that one. Or if they win, oh, I'll see you on Tuesday.
Yeah. They have to get a whole week's worth of partying into one Sunday night.
Like one night or Sunday and Monday, So I do think it's an issue. I don't know how you would remedy this.
That's a really good point. How it's unique to football, right? Because you look at like the Golden Knights, like they don't have this level of problem. Like we haven't heard
because they're traveling a lot, But when they travel on a road trip, they're gone for a week.
Yeah,
and when they're home, they're playing. They play today, then tomorrow they might have off, but then they play the next day. So it's like it's not like it's a practice where you can kind of just get through it. It's an actual contest.
Like hockey players can like just go to a nice dinner in a bar on a Friday, knowing they can do the same thing on a Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have to get this in now because it's gonna be another week before I can go find some more hoochies, right? Like hockey players, like I can do this in 2 days from now if I really want to. So I don't have to go buck wild.
Yeah, so that's something that hit me after the whole Hobbs thing. I'm like, yeah, we're noticing this stuff Monday morning, Tuesday morning. It's a problem, man. It's a problem. It's a problem when you have a young team, and you don't have. It's
all these players are under 25.
Also, you don't have these young guys. They don't care that it happened to them. Like the whole story of oh, watch out, this is going to happen to you as far as the worst case scenario. You end up killing someone else or yourself, right? That happened. It's still not going to deter them because that's not going to happen to me. Because guess what? It doesn't happen in the general population, right? We know people who've gotten into car accidents. I've known people who've died in car accidents, and people I know, siblings of theirs, still get DUIs. And it's just like it's just decision making, and you make poor decisions when you're young anyway. But on top of that, you have that alpha mentality that you can do more than the regular person, and you have that mentality that it's not going to happen to you, and you have access to all this stuff, and everyone knows you and just throwing stuff at you. And I don't know, man. And you have that air of, you've been getting away with stuff your entire life. You've been treated different and special because you are better and you are different and special.
If you give a cop pulled over Josh Jacobs in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, they're gonna like arrest him
after they jerked him off, maybe.
Yeah, not even after they jerked him off. They'd be like, no, you're good, sir. And this is another part too. I've heard that Las Vegas Metro usually informs the Raiders when something like this happens. Like the Las Vegas local PD. It's because Las Vegas is interesting because like they call Reno the biggest little city in the world. Like Vegas is the biggest little city in the world. It's like world famous, world renowned, but it's not a giant metropolis, right? It's not like the other giant NFL markets, right? LA, New York, Seattle, Dallas, like all these, huge cities. It's on the smaller end. So you're not going to have like LAPD doesn't give a shit if you play for the Rams, right? NYPD doesn't care if you play for the Giants. Las Vegas Metro, like a little bit of semi small town feel, right? Like giant celebs in the area. And so that's what I've heard with people that know in Las Vegas, that normally when something goes on, the LVPD either arrest them or not charge them or anything, but just kind of say, hey, take him. We'll take him to the facility, or we'll let the team know, hey, this happened. You guys handle it internally. So we've had 3 headline grabbing instances in 1 year when the local police department has the Raiders back. Like, these are the 3. Like, you're not going to hide what Henry Ruggs did. You know what I mean? No. Like, you're not going to hide the damage that Josh Jacobs did, right? So it's like, this is what's spilling over after they've been protected. This isn't like, all right, these are the only 3 things that happened because Las Vegas Metro is just all over their asses. Like, no, it's the opposite. This is the spillover after the cover-ups. That's how bad it's getting.
Yeah, man, it's a problem, dude. It's something that look, I hate to tie off the field stuff with on the field stuff, but it's a discipline thing. You see the penalties on the field, pre-snap penalties and stuff like that. It's discipline. Discipline is not a light switch. You don't see somebody who's super disciplined in one aspect of their life normally being undisciplined in another aspect of
Imagine if Alex Leatherwood was as undisciplined off the field as he is on the field. Like, he'd be like driving 100 miles an hour in a school zone, shooting an Uzi out the window, fireworks shooting out the other window.
He'd be in that Bane jail cell, like just 24/7, like chains like on his head and his arms and legs just sitting there like all day.
Alex Leatherwood's like erecting nativity scenes on city property, just like convulsively, just because he has to, just because he's so undisciplined. No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Like, this is something that, like, look, I don't want to over dramatize what's happening here, but if this hasn't gotten through to the brass at the Raiders, that there needs to be something done here. A meeting, someone in charge, and none of this bullshit. Well, we'll have Ubers in charge for. They already have access to all that. No single NFL player is like, well, I had no way home. That's not the problem. It's the decision making that's the problem, not the allocation of resources. And this goes back to, as amazing as Rich Bisaccia was this season, how much the players loved him, rallied around him, that kind of leader. He's not the leader, the best buddy, the guy that writes you handwritten notes, the guy that you shoot the shit with after practice because you want to and talk about your relationships and your kids or whatever else is going on with you. That's not a coach you fear. That's not a coach you're afraid, tail between your legs, head down. I got a DUI, coach. Like, that's not a guy where you're deathly afraid of making a mistake around. And so that's the flip. I'm not saying Rich Bisaccia needs to change, because I think what he did, whether he's the head coach moving forward or not, whatever, like, what he did is his own style and it's effective. The downside of it, though, is that it's not a recipe for disciplinarian. It's not a recipe for getting rid of penalties, off the field issues. There needs to be someone in that facility in charge of putting these guys in line, like an Arlie Ermy from Full Metal Jacket. There needs to be somebody there that's in charge of these guys, because I'm starting to feel like, can you 100% blame Vegas? No. Can you say young team, affectionate, not disciplinary leadership, plus Las Vegas all together adds up to this problem? Absolutely. You're not getting out of Las Vegas, so you can't, that could be part of the problem, but you can't blame it because it's not a solution. This is going to be a real test next season and moving forward. The leadership of the Raiders getting these young, brand new millionaires in line.
Yeah, someone has to address the team and being like, guys, listen up. If you're having alcohol, if you're having one drink of alcohol, if you plan on having one sip of alcohol, do not drive. Do yourself, do your team a favor. Because if you get a DUI, you're suspended from this team because of XYZ. You have to have strong rules. And the thing is you have to have those rules and you have to stand by them. And it all comes down to discipline, man. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be difficult to be effective.
The touchy-feely nature of the Raiders, the Rich Bisaccia loves you, the mental health meetings. Like, again, I'm not knocking it. It's clearly working, and this is all great things. But you're starting to lose the military precision discipline that the Raiders clearly need. And the Raiders, it's the Raiders, right? Historically, they're the wild guys. Stabler's just getting hammered the night before games and winning Super Bowls. It's part of the lure of the Raiders. But this is not that. These guys aren't doing rock stars and performing the next day. They're making stupid errors as young lives, most importantly, most dangerously, and costing their futures. It's a thing that has to change with the Raiders, and this is just another example of the lack of discipline that's going on in Las Vegas.
Yeah, man, it's got to change, man. The discipline that we've had in the past was like almost comical, like, oh yeah, just the same old Raiders, out there trying to intimidate people. This is just bad decision making.
All right, well, we'll see if they can get their act together moving forward. But until then, knock on wood if you're with me.